All right, YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel for a brand new Pokemon investing and collecting video. Today, we are talking about 20 illustration rares that have now dropped in price. And with this price drop, it might be a good point for you guys to look at picking some of them up if in recent times they have been a little bit too expensive. Now, one thing we have seen with the Pokemon hobby lately is that a lot of things have been going up in price, and it looks like we're finally starting to see the end of that with things going down in price. And obviously going into the US summer, this is a current trend that seems to occur year after year when people are spending their money in other places. So if you have your attention on Pokemon cards, you can potentially pick up some steals. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over these 20 cards here in just a second. And remember, we are doing a giveaway at 3,000 subscribers. We are very, very close to that point. So if you haven't got yourself an entry just yet, make sure you do so. Now, also just quickly, before we jump into the cards, I want to say thank you to today's video sponsor, which is PokeNotify. Now, PokeNotify is a Discord server that's going to help you with all of the latest up-to-date notifications for restocks on Pokemon products from stores like Walmart, Target, and a bunch more. So if you find yourself missing out on getting Pokemon restocks a lot, then this could potentially help you. PokeNotify is going to ping you every time there is a restock when you set it up correctly, and they do have international channels where you can see it directly to your country and line it up with what you need to know. Now, on top of that, if you want to give it a try, they do have a 3-day free trial. And if you are interested in using this, it is linked down in the description below for you guys to check out. Now, jumping into the cards, the first one we're looking here is the Articuno illustration rare from Journey Together. Now, keep in mind, Journey Together has just come out. It is a new set, and I understand that. However, we tend to always see prices drop with these cards right after they're released, except for, of course, the exception of Prismatic Evolutions. Everything just seemed to go up. Now, in terms of the newer sets, I think I would wait on this one a little bit longer. And I did mention myself wanting this card in a previous video. I am going to hold off maybe another month or two just to see where this set levels out at, because I do think Journey Together will continue to go down. Right now, the Articuno is sitting at $36 market price, but its pre-release price was $58. So I'm not really sure what that's going to do in the near future. I would expect it to continue to go down. And if it hits around about the $30 mark, or maybe even a little bit less than that, I'll probably pull the trigger at that point. This one's actually down 37% since its pre-release, so it has dropped quite a bit. Next up, we're going to skip over Prismatic because they don't have illustration rares. They just have like the Master Balls and things like that. And I wasn't going to dig through a bunch of Master Balls when I just wanted to focus on illustration rares for this video. The Latios from Surging Sparks is the next one on the list. This one's down 26% this month, dropping down to $30.84, where it was $41, close to $42 in the recent month. So this one has dropped quite significantly. And again, this is one of those cards where if you've been lucky enough to pull the Latias in the special illustration rare and you wanted this to have the matching set, I think it's a fantastic time to pick this one up. It may go cheaper in a few months, but again, this is a price point I would be happy to pay for this card. At 30 USD, I think it's definitely worth that. And I only think this card is going to be worth more in the long run. If that's something you're looking at doing, is building a collection that is valuable, I think this is a good pickup any point between where it is right now and the potential like extra $5 or so that it might drop during the summer. But again, it's not a huge difference when you're talking 5-6 years time, when this card is going to be worth a lot more than it is now. Next up, sticking with Surging Sparks, is the Skarmory. This one is down 21% right now. It's only $12. And look at the artwork on this card. It is gorgeous. This is one of my favorite illustration rares that I haven't added to my collection yet. To be honest, I'm probably going to go ahead and buy this when I get back from Japan, if I actually have any money left over. But I do plan on buying a bunch of Glory of Team Rocket when I'm out there, if it's available, of course, if I can get my hands on it. So my money is kind of put aside for other things right now. But again, this Skarmory is one that is definitely on my list to pick up. Next up is the Raboot from Stellar Crown. This one is a gorgeous artwork for a ridiculously cheap price. It's down 28% this month, almost 29%. It's a $5 card. It's gorgeous for $5. And that's the thing with a lot of these illustration rares, is you can pick up a ton of really good looking illustration rares for like $5 to $10. And I think they look awesome in a binder. They're something you're going to look back on in the future and go, yeah, that's sick. I remember when I got that. And I think they're just really worthwhile investments where, you know, if you're looking to do master sets and things like that, there are so many cheap illustration rares that are around the $5 mark that you guys should be looking at picking up. Next up is the Houndoom, one of my favorites from Shrouded Fable. This is probably the one card from Shrouded Fable that I'm like wanting more than anything. Again, like I said, I'm on a budget right now. I'm about to go to Japan. Money is aside for that. But again, if I come back with money, this is one that is absolutely going to get picked up. It's down 14% right now, and it's sitting at the $36 mark. When earlier in the year, about a month ago, it was sitting at $43. So it has dropped quite a bit, and I think it may potentially go down even a little bit further than it is right now. And I just think we're going to see this come down to potentially $30 to $32. And that's somewhere where I'd look at buying it as well. Next up, the most expensive one, I think the most expensive one on this list, actually, sorry, second most expensive, is the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade, down 30% this month. Now, Eevee had a really good run. If we pull this into a 6-month chart, if it actually loads for me, Eevee had a really good run here, all the way up to $96, which was insane. And I think people realized, you know, it wasn't exactly worth that much. So it kind of fell off and not a lot of people were buying it at that price. So that in the last couple of months, it has dropped quite a significant amount, which is 30%. But even in the last month, it's down 20% alone. So this one's sitting at 65 right now. This, again, will probably be one of those cards in 5 years' time that's like $400 because nobody can find them anywhere. And it's a super cute Eevee card and everybody wants it. I think the next time we see like an Eevee set, like a Prismatic or an Evolving Skies, this card is going to be absolute money for anyone that bought it right now and got in early. Next up, Hisuian Growlithe from Twilight Masquerade. I like this card because it's super cute and it matches with the Perrin Full Art Trainer card. Just another really cute set. I love when the cards match up. This one's down 20% right now, and it is $16.77. Again, if you want to pick something up that's super cute and it's not going to break the bank, this is a good card to do that with. Moving on, the Metagross from Temporal Forces. I think this is my only Temporal Forces card on this list because I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it was just this and the Ghastly, but I think the Ghastly hadn't gone down too much where it was worth talking about. But the Metagross has. So it's almost down 25% in the last month. It's sitting at $21.90, where it did hit a high of like $38 at one point. It went on a 130% increase before dropping down this sort of 24%. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that in the last 3 months, it has gone up way more in that time than it has come down. However, looking where it came down to was $22 there. And in the last month, this is where we're kind of sitting now, is just under that point. So a lot of the retracement is kind of back to where it was-ish. It was around $17 3 months ago. And it's come back down. It's a little bit higher than it was. It's 22 now. So these are things to keep in mind. It's one thing to look at a 1 month chart and go, oh yeah, it's down 20, 25, 30%. That's great. But when you pull it into the 3 month chart, where was it at 3 months ago? Is it lower now than it was 3 months ago? Is it the same? Or is it a lot more expensive than it was 3 months ago? And it hasn't really dropped off that much. It just looks like it has because it's been only a month. So things to check when you're looking at these things as well. The Groudon, the biggest card on this list, again, $91 right now, down only 9%, but I thought I'd throw it in here because this is a lot of people's chase card from Paradox Rift, or from a lot of, you know, this Scarlet Violet era. For me, it's one that I want to get as well, and I haven't picked it up, but I will eventually. But again, look at this. In the last 3 months, it grew 23%, and now it's only down 9%. So it's still technically up. So it has dropped a little bit. This is probably one I'm going to sit on a little bit longer and wait and just see if it comes back down a little bit further before pulling the trigger. Steelix from Paradox Rift, another one that I actually do have in my collection. I love this card. I think it's gorgeous. It's a really cool looking card, and I always say this, but there's something about Pokemon doing real life jobs, which I think is really interesting. And they seem to be cool artworks every time they do it, like this, the timber that you can get where he's like doing his woodwork. I think that's really cool as well. There are just so many cool cards like that out there, and this is I'd say arguably my favorite. So down 14% this month. But again, 3 months ago, it was like a $25 card. Now you're sitting at like the $31 mark. So it's slightly more expensive than it was a few months ago. But again, it's still a cool looking card. Now, the Pikachu from 151, interestingly enough, I actually checked all of the starters. I checked the Squirtle, the Bulbasaur, and the Charmander, and they weren't down very much at all. They're only down a couple of percent. But the Pikachu, when I clicked on it, was actually down 26% in the last month, which was really interesting. And again, it's only up 1% in the last 3 months. So it's basically at the same point it was 3 months ago. And it doesn't look like it's actually started to tick back up, which, you know, we always know it could mean it continues to travel downwards. So if it does, I think if this hits the $30 mark, it's probably an instant cop if you get the chance. Dragonair, another gorgeous 151 artwork. This one's down 16%, sitting at $26 right now. Although, one thing to point out on this chart, look at this massive group of purchases, and we've seen this a lot lately, especially with illustration rares, are groups of people buying out a specific card, letting the card go up in value, and then selling off the card to make profit. So keep an eye on this right here, because we went from having 9 items sold a day, 5 items, 10 items, 10 items, to having 60 items sold. So somebody's clearly orchestrated something here. I would expect this price to potentially go up now and then come back down after that. So be warned, if you look at this card and it's more expensive, don't pull the trigger, because I think it will come back down. And we've seen that, and you'll see that in a minute with a couple of cards that are on this list. Prime example right here. Houndour from Obsidian Flames was bought up an absolute ton. Look at the spike on this graph, by the way. Incredible. This thing went from being a $4, $5, $6 card, bang, all the way up to 30. And that's because you can see these bar graphs right here, 134 items sold, 153 items sold in that really short span compared to what was selling. So this absolutely spiked the price up to $32, and now it has plummeted back down to $7. It went from $4, $5 to 32 to 7. And, you know, there is potential that this card continues to drop. You look at the graph here. It's just going down and down and down, and it is down 41%. So this shows the power of these orchestrated groups that do purchase out a whole card on TCG Player, causing the price to spike up. And then when they can't maintain that amount of sales at the higher price point, everything starts to tip back down and come low. So something to keep an eye on. Again, another one of my favorites, the Ninetales from Obsidian Flames. This one is only down 13%, but still it's hit the $20 mark again. And I think this is a good point to buy it at. Absolutely, this card is worth $20. Even beforehand, it was a $22 card. It went up to 33, 34, back down now at the $20 mark. So I would pick this up for $20. If you sit on it a little bit, it could go up, it could go down. We don't really know, but I'm keen to buy it at $20 if I get the chance. Next one as well, Scissor from Obsidian Flames. This is one of my favorite artworks. I feel like I say that about a lot of cards, but there's just so many cool illustration rares out there. Down to $8.45, which is almost 40% down. And a lot of people have started to take advantage of this and buy it. This one looks a little bit more consistent than one of those orchestrated buyouts that we're used to seeing. However, this price may go up slightly depending, and then it might come back down. However, there are still multiple starred sellers at like $7 for this card. You've got a lightly played version for $5.80. You got a couple at $7.55, $8.23. So I don't think any crazy jumps are going to happen right now unless someone was to buy up all of these other ones that are here first. So there's a lot listed. I think we're okay. Now, there is the next one. Okay, these are some of these cards that I've been talking about that have been manipulated and bought out. Frigibax and the Evolution line, so Frigibax, Arctibax, and Baxcalibur, all were subject to one of these buyouts. You can see right here, 70 items sold and 69 items sold back to back, when the average was kind of like 15 to 22-ish on a lot of these. It spiked in price. It went up to $28, and then it couldn't maintain that price, and people weren't really buying it at that price, and it has just dropped back down and down and down. Same thing with the Arctobacks, down 32%, now $10.54 when its high was 40, which is crazy to me for this card. It's not even that nice. And then Baxcalibur, which is probably the nicest out of the three, I would say. I do like the Frigibacks. I don't really like the Arctobacks, but the Baxcalibur is probably the best out of the three. Down 32% this month alone, which went from being a $14 card up to being a $52 card, which was a 300% increase, by the way, 315% increase. And it's all the way back down to $18.54. So it is higher than it originally was, but I'm hoping this continues to trend downward. So we got a really obvious idea of what happened with that card. Drowsy was another one where it could have been subject to a buyout, although there was a fair bit of consistency around here. It did rock up to like $77 at one point. Now it's down at 32. So it's basically halved in the last, month or two, which is crazy. But again, a bunch of purchases here recently. 19 items sold when the average was like 5 to 10. So is that going to cause it to go back up? Maybe. I don't know. It could. And then finally, Slowpoke. This one down 29% at $22. It looks like someone may have potentially tried to do a buyout here at 23 items sold, being the outlier on April 5th. However, we didn't see an increase. We didn't see anything go back up. It kind of just flattened out. So I don't know if maybe that's going to go up and then come back down again, but Slowpoke at $20, Gen 1 Pokemon. I think it's really cool, and I think it's one that you guys can get around as well. But with that said, this was 20 illustration rares that are dropping in price. I hope you get the chance to add some of these to your collection, because I will definitely be doing so when I'm back from my trip. However, I do want to say quickly thank you to all of the new subscribers. I really do appreciate you guys. We're very close to 3K now, and I'm super excited to get there, because I do have a couple of announcements to make once we get to that point, on top of the giveaway. So with that said, I'm going to leave you guys for now. I will catch you in the next video.